Every second you exist, you leak something into the universe. Not heat or light, but something else. Something that can't be measured by any instrument we've built. Something that might be the rarest resource in existence. And right now, as fear creeps up your spine listening to these words, something somewhere might be feeding. What if human consciousness is not just aware but produces something? And every emotion you've ever felt, every moment of joy, terror, love, or despair, creates something tangible in dimensions we can't perceive. And what if Earth isn't a planet with life, but a carefully maintained farm? 7 billion consciousness generators, pumping out a resource so valuable that beings cross impossible distances just to harvest it? This isn't philosophy. This is a pattern hidden in plain sight. And once you see it, everything about human history, human suffering, and human purpose takes on a meaning so dark you'll wish you could forget. In 1947, something crashed in Roswell. You know the official story. Weather balloon. Case closed. But that same year, something else happened that no one talks about. Mental health admissions spiked worldwide. Anxiety disorders exploded. The modern age of human neurosis began. As if something had changed in the very nature of human consciousness. Then came the Cold War. Humanity, for the first time, living under the constant threat of nuclear annihilation. Entire populations marinating in existential dread. And what accompanied this era? The greatest wave of UFO sightings in recorded history. As if something was drawn to the feast of fear we were producing. Look at any graph of UFO encounters overlaid with human emotional events. Wars, disasters, social upheavals. The correlation is perfect. Too perfect. When we suffer en masse, they appear. When we experience collective joy or grief, the skies fill with unexplained lights, like farmers checking their crops during harvest season. Let me share something that haunts researchers who've noticed this pattern. In December 2004, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck the Indian Ocean. The tsunami killed nearly 250,000 people. The planet rang with human anguish. And in the 72 hours that followed, UFO reports increased by 400% globally, not just in the affected areas, everywhere, as if the entire harvest network activated to collect the massive outpouring of human emotion. September 11th, 2001. As towers fell and the world watched in horror, pilots reported more unidentified aerial phenomena in the following week than in the previous 6 months combined. The Phoenix Lights appeared during a period of intense social anxiety about the approaching millennium. The Belgian UFO wave coincided with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the existential uncertainty it created. But here's what researchers don't want to admit. It's not just negative emotions. Woodstock, 1969, 500,000 people experiencing collective euphoria. The skies above were so active with unexplained aerial phenomena that it made local news, though history forgot. Live Aid, 1985. Global unity, shared purpose, overwhelming emotion. UFO sightings spiked across every participating country. So what exactly are we producing? Dr. Stuart Hameroff, studying quantum effects in microtubules, discovered that consciousness might exist partially outside our physical dimension. When neurons fire, they create quantum fields that extend beyond the brain. These fields carry information, but more importantly, they carry the quality of experience itself, the subjective feeling of being. Now imagine beings that evolved in those higher dimensions. To them, consciousness fields might be as tangible as electromagnetic radiation is to us. And human consciousness, with its unique capacity for extreme emotion, might produce something they need or want or can't create themselves. Think about what makes humans unique among Earth's species. It's not intelligence. Dolphins and apes can solve complex problems. It's not communication. Prairie dogs have languages with grammar. It's our emotional range and intensity. We're the only species that cries at fiction, that feels nostalgia for times we've never lived, that can imagine suffering so vividly we traumatize ourselves with our own thoughts. And we're getting better at it. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Modern humans experience more emotional states in a single day than our ancestors did in months. Social media hasn't connected us. It's amplified us. Every scroll triggers micro-emotions. Envy, outrage, desire, despair. We're not communicating. We're bleeding consciousness into harvestable fields. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. Each check is an emotional spike, a tiny harvest. Multiply that by 5 billion smartphone users. We've built a planet-wide consciousness farm that runs 24/7. And we did it voluntarily, enthusiastically. We pay for the privilege of being harvested. Consider how social media algorithms work. They don't optimize for happiness or connection. They optimize for engagement and emotional response. The stronger the emotion, the more engagement. The more engagement, the more data. But what if it's not just data being collected? What if every rage tweet, every envious scroll, every dopamine hit is something else's sustenance? The television was invented in 1927. By 1950, 90% of American homes had one. For the first time in human history, millions could experience synchronized emotion, watching the same shows, feeling the same feelings, at the same time, creating consciousness fields of unprecedented coherence and intensity. Is it coincidence that the modern UFO era began in 1947, just as television was spreading? That every advancement in mass media corresponds with new types of unidentified phenomena? Radio brought Foo Fighters in World War II. Television brought flying saucers. The internet brought black triangles. Social media brought tic-tacs. Each evolution in our ability to synchronize emotion preceded by new harvesting methods. But synchronized emotion is just the beginning. What we're building now is something far more profound. Virtual reality isn't about gaming. It's about creating entirely artificial emotional experiences, experiences more intense than reality, because they're designed to be. We're not just growing the crop, we're genetically engineering it for maximum yield. Now let's talk about the farmers. If consciousness is a resource, who's harvesting it? The behaviors reported in Close Encounters offer disturbing clues. Abductees consistently report beings that seem fascinated by human emotion. They're shown images designed to provoke fear, love, sexual arousal, parental instincts, not to study reactions, to generate them. Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist who studied hundreds of abduction cases, noticed something that destroyed his worldview. The beings seemed to feed on the emotions they provoked. Terror wasn't a side effect of the experience. It was the point. They would calm subjects just to frighten them again. Induce feelings of love, just to rip them away, like a chef seasoning a dish. And then there's the hybridization program reported by so many abductees. What if it's not about creating a new species? What if it's about creating beings that can produce consciousness fields while surviving in multiple dimensions, expanding the farm beyond Earth? Industrial agriculture on a cosmic scale. But here's the truly horrifying possibility. What if we were designed for this? Look at human evolution. In just 200,000 years, we developed brains that consume 20% of our energy to produce consciousness far more complex than survival requires. We're the only species that voluntarily seeks out experiences that make us suffer. Horror movies, tragedy, extreme sports. We pay to feel fear. Our entire civilization might be optimized for consciousness production. Cities pack millions into emotional pressure cookers. Economic systems ensure constant striving, constant want, constant fear of loss. Entertainment industries worth trillions exist solely to make us feel. Even our religions focus on emotional transformation, suffering as enlightenment. ecstasy as divine connection. What if these aren't bugs in human society? What if they're features? What if every prophet, every philosopher, every leader who pushed humanity toward more complex emotional states was implementing someone else's agricultural policy? The evidence is in our chemistry. When humans experience intense emotion, we produce compounds found nowhere else in nature. Dimethyltryptamine during birth, death, and extreme stress. Complex neuropeptides during love and grief. Unique electromagnetic signatures during meditation and prayer. We're not just feeling, we're manufacturing something, and production is increasing exponentially. The World Health Organization reports anxiety and depression have risen 300% in 50 years. Not because life is harder, because we're being optimized. Social structures that promoted contentment are systematically dissolved. Stability is discouraged. Peace is unprofitable. For whom? The most disturbing evidence comes from remote viewing programs. Multiple viewers, working independently, have reported the same vision. Earth, from outside, glowing not with city lights, but with consciousness fields. Billions of bright spots pulsing with emotion. And around Earth, structures we can't see with physical instruments. Collection arrays, processing stations, infrastructure for consciousness harvest on a planetary scale. So where does the harvest go? What uses the distilled essence of human experience? Perhaps beings that lost the ability to feel, trading emotion for immortality, or maybe consciousness, is a fuel for technologies we can't imagine. Perhaps human experience is a delicacy in dimensions where physics allows for the consumption of qualia itself. Or maybe, and this is the possibility that keeps researchers awake, perhaps consciousness is addictive. Perhaps we're not feeding a civilization but an addiction, 8 billion souls generating the most potent consciousness in local space, unable to stop, because stopping would mean withdrawal for beings powerful enough to engineer our entire species. The manipulation might be subtler than we imagine. That anxiety you feel for no reason, that sudden sadness on a beautiful day, that rage at strangers online. What if those aren't your emotions? What if they're induced to meet quotas we'll never see? Every time you've wondered why you feel empty in a life filled with abundance, you might have been experiencing the truth. You're not living, you're producing. But there's hope hidden in the horror. If consciousness is valuable enough to farm, it's powerful enough to resist. Throughout history, individuals have reported moments of breaking free. Meditation that silences the harvest. Psychedelics that reveal the machinery. States of consciousness that can't be consumed because they exist outside the collection spectrum. Maybe that's why every culture developed practices to alter consciousness. Not to explore, to escape, to become, temporarily, unharvestable. And maybe that's why those practices are discouraged, stigmatized, criminalized. Can't have the crop learning to resist collection. The next time you feel an emotion too intense for its cause, ask yourself who it's for. When you're scrolling at 3 a.m., feeling anger at strangers, sadness at others, success, desire for things you don't need, ask what's being fed. Because if human emotions are a resource, then every feeling might be a transaction. And you've never seen the bill. We might not be alone in the universe. We might be alone in our own minds. And that's infinitely worse. If the possibility of consciousness harvesting has left you questioning every emotion, discover why your memories might not be yours in our investigation of missing time. Or explore whether free will itself is an illusion and what if every choice you make was already decided. Subscribe for more explorations into the systems we never agreed to join. Next week, we examine why certain locations on Earth seem designed to amplify human suffering. Until then, feel carefully. Something might be tasting.